Elena lived in a small coastal town, where the sound of waves rolling onto the shore mixed with the chatter of fishermen mending their nets. She worked at a local bakery, waking up before sunrise each morning to knead dough and shape bread. Although she enjoyed greeting early bird customers, she often wondered if she was destined to spend her entire life in this quiet corner of the world. Each time she wiped flour from her hands, she felt a gentle tug of longing for something she couldn't name. Marco was a teacher at the local elementary school, a short walk from the bakery. He taught music, filling the classrooms with melodies that made children laugh and sing. Whenever the final bell rang, he would carefully pack away his guitar and think about what else life might offer. A devoted educator, he loved sharing music with his students, but sometimes he wished for an adventure outside of lesson plans and piano keys. One early morning, Elena decided to try a new recipe for the bakery's daily special. As she opened the shop, Marco happened to pass by, humming a tune and carrying a notebook filled with ideas for his upcoming music project. He smelled the aroma of fresh bread drifting out to the street and felt drawn inside. Stepping into the warm interior, he was greeted by Elena's friendly smile. She placed a few pastries on a tray, explaining that she had experimented with cinnamon and orange zest. Marco took a bite, his eyes lighting up. He complimented the flavor, and Elena blushed at the sincerity in his voice. They talked briefly about their mornings, her busy schedule at the bakery, his plans to incorporate more creative activities in class. Although the conversation lasted only a few minutes, it left both of them feeling more awake than any cup of coffee could. As days turned into weeks, Marco became a regular before school. He would arrive early to taste Elena's newest creations, sometimes sharing stories about the students who were trying to learn complex songs on recorders or pianos. She laughed at the funny details, but also admired how dedicated he was to helping each child discover the beauty of music. This simple routine formed a comfortable bond between them, a small spark in their otherwise predictable lives. One sunny afternoon, the entire town prepared for the annual Seashell Festival, an event that brought tourists, families, and a variety of performers to the shore. Elena had to supply the festival booths with trays of muffins and cookies. She was bustling around the bakery, carefully packing boxes, when Marco appeared at the door. He hesitated for a moment before asking if she might need any help transporting all those baked goods. Elena gratefully accepted, glad to have someone strong enough to lift the heavy boxes. They spent the afternoon driving to the festival grounds, with the windows rolled down to let the ocean breeze swirl into the car. When they arrived, they worked side by side, setting up tables and laying out pastries in neat rows. Children ran around them, squealing with excitement, and live music drifted over the sand. Elena smiled at Marco each time their eyes met, realizing how natural it felt to be around him. As evening approached, the festival's main stage lit up with a band playing cheerful tunes. Marco, being a music teacher, couldn't resist tapping his feet and humming along. Elena, feeling a sudden rush of courage, grabbed his hand and gently pulled him toward the makeshift dance floor. They moved awkwardly at first, laughing at their own missteps until they found an easy rhythm. The crowd around them seemed to blur. In that moment, they felt an unspoken connection that neither had experienced before. A week later, Marco invited Elena to attend a small recital his students were giving. She arrived at the school gym, slightly nervous, holding a box of homemade cookies as a gift for the children. The students performed simple melodies on their flutes and guitars, their faces lighting up whenever they spotted Marco's encouraging nod. Elena watched him direct the kids with patience and kindness, and a sense of admiration bloomed in her chest. During a short break, he joined her in the audience. They exchanged content smiles, both feeling that their friendship was growing into something deeper. Despite their growing closeness, life had its way of throwing obstacles in their path. Elena's older sister, Laura, returned to town unexpectedly with plans to revitalize the old family bakery in the next town over. Laura proposed that Elena leave her quiet shop to help run a larger, more modern facility that could produce pastries in high volume for a big chain of grocery stores. Confused by the unexpected offer, Elena felt torn between her current life and the possibility of making a name for herself in a bigger venture. Meanwhile, Marco learned that the school board was considering cutting his music program due to budget issues. Faced with the possibility of losing his job, he felt powerless and unsettled. At night, he lay awake in bed, trying to figure out how to save the class he loved so much. He thought about Elena's growing predicament and wished he could give her a clear answer about which path to take. However, he struggled with his own uncertainty. They confided in each other during walks along the beach. Elena described her sister's grand visions and how Laura wanted to transform the family bakery into a nationwide brand. Marco confessed that the school board had told him he had 1 month to propose a new plan or face the closure of the music program. The weight of these decisions made their usual light-hearted conversations feel heavier. Yet, in the midst of all the confusion, their friendship became a pillar of support for both. A few days before Elena had to make her decision, the two of them met on the pier just before sunset. The sky was painted in pastel shades of pink and orange, and the salt air felt warm against their skin. Elena was leaning against the railing, looking out at the fishing boats returning to shore. Marco joined her, resting his arm next to hers, their fingers nearly touching. She admitted that she wanted to expand her horizons, but not at the cost of losing the personal touch she loved at her small bakery. He nodded, understanding the dilemma of wanting to grow without losing the core of what made her passion special. Marco then told her about his plan to convince the school board to keep the music program. He proposed creating a community event that would involve not just students, but local businesses, families, and volunteers. The goal was to show how music brought everyone together, fostering creativity and unity. Elena listened with growing enthusiasm and offered to help, suggesting that she could donate baked goods and maybe even ask some local vendors to pitch in. They immediately set to work, organizing meetings and handing out flyers around town. The plan was to host a free evening concert in the school courtyard, where students would perform, local bands would play short sets, and attendees could purchase snacks to support the program. While preparing for the event, Elena and Marco spent hours together, collaborating on everything from stage decorations to a set list that would highlight the students' progress. On the night of the concert, a gentle breeze blew through the courtyard, rustling the colorful streamers Elena had helped hang. Families filled the seats, and children ran across the lawn, excited to perform for their parents. The sweet aroma of freshly baked cookies and savory snacks surrounded the crowd. Marco led his students to the stage. Each child clutched an instrument, and a mix of nerves and excitement flickered in their eyes. As the young musicians began to play, Elena stood to the side of the stage, carefully watching Marco guide them. The music started softly, rising and falling like the tide. Families clapped along, and a sense of hope spread across the courtyard. When the final note echoed into the night air, a roar of applause erupted from the audience. Some people wiped tears from their eyes, moved by the simple power of children sharing their hard work. The rest of the event unfolded beautifully, featuring a few local bands, a short choir performance, and even an open mic segment for brave volunteers. By the end of the concert, donations had poured in, proving that the community valued the music program. The school board members in attendance were impressed by the turnout and the genuine passion they witnessed. They approached Marco to congratulate him on a job well done, promising to revisit the budget decision with a more positive outlook. After the crowd dissipated, Elena and Marco remained behind to help clean up. With the courtyard mostly empty, they caught each other's gaze under the soft glow of a single street lamp. Elena felt tears welling up, a rush of relief and pride filling her heart. Marco took a small step closer, gently brushed a strand of hair from her face, and thanked her for believing in his plan when no one else did. She whispered that she admired his dedication and wished she had the same courage to face her own choice about the bakery. The next morning, Elena woke early to find a text from her sister, urging her to finalize the move to the new bakery. She realized she had to give a clear answer. Gathering her thoughts, she strolled to her shop and let the familiar smell of dough and sugar fill her lungs. She reflected on how she'd built a close-knit relationship with her regulars, how each recipe she tried contained a piece of her creativity. She also thought of Marco's unwavering passion for his music program. If he could stand up for what he believed in, she could do the same. When Laura arrived, full of ideas and high-energy enthusiasm, Elena explained that she appreciated the offer but wanted to remain true to the small-town spirit that had shaped her love for baking. Laura appeared disappointed at first, but she gave her sister a supportive hug, admitting she understood the importance of following one's heart. They parted with a promise to collaborate in smaller ways that wouldn't compromise Elena's personal touch. Soon after, the school board made an official announcement that Marco's music program would stay, thanks to the overwhelming community response. Overjoyed, Marco prepared new lessons and started planning future concerts, determined to keep his students engaged and excited about the arts. Buoyed by this success, he shared his happiness with Elena, whose resolve about her own bakery had grown stronger. One quiet evening, they found themselves alone on the beach at low tide. The moonlit water shimmered, and the distant sound of waves provided a gentle soundtrack to their conversation. Elena spoke about her renewed commitment to her bakery, how she wanted to add a small reading nook and perhaps a spot for live music on weekends. Marco grinned at the prospect, imagining a cozy corner where he and his students might sometimes perform. Elena closed her eyes, breathing in the salty air. She felt Marco's hand slip into hers, and she squeezed it gratefully. Standing there under the starlit sky, they felt that even though life could be unpredictable, it was moments like these that made every challenge worthwhile. Their bond, forged through mutual respect and shared dreams, had grown into something that warmed their hearts in a way neither had expected. Months passed, and Elena introduced new items to her bakery menu, experimenting with flavors inspired by her customers' suggestions. Marco's program thrived. The students performed at small-town events, and the passion for music spread throughout the community. Occasionally, Elena and Marco would collaborate on afternoon gatherings where people could sample pastries while listening to mini concerts by the children. These events became a favorite tradition for locals looking to enjoy the simple pleasures of good food and uplifting music. Their relationship blossomed in tandem with their successes, each supporting the other in times of doubt. As they sat on a bench overlooking the harbor one afternoon, watching the fishing boats come in, Marco turned to Elena and told her how proud he was of everything she had accomplished. She smiled, recalling the day he first walked into the bakery, unaware of how greatly his presence would change her life. He gently took her hand, promising that whatever twists lay ahead, they would navigate them together. Elena gazed at the gentle waves, remembering the sense of longing she once felt every time she closed up the bakery. Now she felt fulfilled by her work and the relationships that had flourished around it. With Marco by her side, she discovered that the simplest joys, a warm loaf of bread, a heartfelt song, and a kind word, could hold the greatest power to transform an ordinary life into something truly extraordinary. And so, with each passing day, they carried on. Elena kneading dough, Marco strumming his guitar, and both of them embracing the uncertainties that made life both challenging and beautiful. Their story continued to unfold in the heart of the little coastal town, where the scent of fresh pastries blended seamlessly with the sound of music, and where two people had finally found the courage to believe in themselves and in each other.